Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the second webinar on planning a Straight Talk watch party for your council. My name is Rachel Abel, and I am the VP of Advocacy for Texas PTA. I would like to introduce a few key people on the webinar today. Feel free to unmute and wave when I call your name. First up is Texas PTA President Jennifer Easley. Next is Texas PTA Executive Director Michelle Jackson. We have Lauren Bingham, Texas PTA Director of Communications. We have Alyssa Fregoletti, please tell me I said that right, Texas PTA Administrative Assistant. And we have April Ramos, Strategic Events and Partnerships Manager. Also joining us today from our special Straight Talk work group are Suzanne Danhoff, who is a Texas PTA Field Service Representative and the first VP for the Denton ISD Council of PTAs, and Kelly Thomas, Texas PTA VP Leadership. Shauna Barnes, the president of the Birdville Council of PTAs, was unable to join us today, but helped us tremendously in creating this webinar. If you have a question during the webinar, please type it into the chat. We will be monitoring those questions throughout our time together. And again, thank you for participating today. And at the conclusion of this webinar, we are hopeful that you will be ready to host an effective and informative Straight Talk watch party. We want to begin this webinar with reflecting on the mission of PTA: to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. Whether it is a small effort in your classroom or your district, or a larger effort in your city, state, or nation, advocacy matters. It is the heart of PTA. A few weeks ago, we hosted part 1 of the Straight Talk Watch Party Planning Toolkit. At that webinar, we discussed the purpose and goals of Straight Talk, the live event details, the when, who, how, and where to planning a watch party. We included sample watch party schedules and shared ways to enhance your watch party atmosphere. Part 1 webinar is available to watch and included in the Straight Talk Marketing Toolkit folder that will be emailed out to you. In the meantime, we will drop the link to the webinar recording in the chat. Would someone, Suzanne or Kelly, would you mind dropping that link at the bottom of slide 3 into the chat? Thank you. Now for part 2. Today's webinar will focus on marketing your Straight Talk watch party, reviewing the day of activities, discussing next steps to keep the smartphone conversations going in your community. And finally, we ask any groups hosting a watch party to let us know via the watch party form. And now Kelly Thomas will discuss marketing your Straight Talk watch party.
Thank you, Rachel. Now that you guys have your date, time, and location, or at least some of that determined, it's time to start marketing Straight Talk 24. I can hear you all now. It's December. Have you ever seen a council PTA leader's calendar in December? Yes, I have. And because of that, Texas PTA has made it easier on you by providing each of you with a multifaceted marketing toolkit to use. Inside the toolkit, you will find social media, event and flyer assets in not 1, not 2, but 3 different formats. And if that wasn't enough, we've also taken advantage of the Canva template interface to allow you to customize each of these elements too. And one other benefit to this toolkit, each asset is already available in Spanish. No translating is required. Now that you know about the tools you have in your toolkit, exactly how you might use them, and we want to talk now about exactly how you might use them. The old adage is that it takes someone 7 times to remember that an event is going to happen. And really, is it possible to remind people too many times? I don't think so. So let's figure out how we're going to do this. On the screen, you'll see a potential marketing timeline along with the item from the toolkit that could be used. We need to get started ASAP because for some of you, winter break begins in 8 days. So between now and the time winter break begins, set up an event on your social media page. add it to the council, school, and district-wide calendars. Then use the save the date to send a quick email, make a social media post, and create cardstock postcards for local PTAs to put in backpacks so they can go ahead and make sure everyone has February 12th at noon kept free on their own calendars. When you get back from winter break, you'll still need to hit the ground running with some additional communication in early and late January, where you provide all the details of your event and gather RSVPs. Once we get into February, the days will fly by. Make the most of Groundhog's Day and let people know that not only is it going to be 6 more weeks of winter, or maybe an early spring, but it's 10 days till Straight Talk. Create another reminder email and social media post at the 5-day out mark. On February 9th, you'll want to send another reminder that the event is happening on Monday. We don't want it to turn into a true Monday and have people miss it, do we? No, I don't think so. Lastly, on the morning of February 12th, as you are setting up, post about the setup, maybe go live on your socials, and remind everyone to be there or be square. Okay, we made it. 7 reminders with a bonus 8th one. All of this marketing will pay off with one fantastic Straight Talk 24 event. Now let's hear from Suzanne about some additional details.
So, as a review from our first webinar, we're going to again briefly look at the sample watch party schedules that you can consider. Option 1 would be welcoming your group, hosting your local panel first, and then allowing for a question and answer period, taking a break, and then sitting together to watch the live stream. This would be optimal for those groups who would see more attendance for a morning event than an afternoon event. Option 2 would host the live stream first and then the local panel and Q&A, which would work better for those groups that would prefer a later event in the day and allow for questions after all of the presentations. Option 3 would be a multi-day event. This would be a couple of shorter gatherings over several days that work best for the group and allow for an ongoing discussion over time. This will help to foster a relationship with this group as you come together to bring local awareness to this topic. And finally, option 4 is choose your own adventure. What do you and your group want to do for this event that works best for your people and would make it most accessible for you? There is no set schedule you have to follow. The main components that you will want to include are a time to watch the live stream together, a time to discuss what this means for your families and schools, and a time to complete the pledge and petition. The Straight Talk Planning Committee has been working to secure dynamic speakers for our live streamed event. These panelists are subject matter experts that will delve into how smartphones are impacting our children's minds, bodies, and classrooms. For today, we're able to share 2 of the panelists that have been confirmed. Our first panelist is Tatiana Jordan, who's a mom, author, and the current Chief Marketing Officer at Bark, an internet safety solution company that helps parents and schools keep children safer across social media, text messaging, and email. Ms. Brown co-authored Parenting in a Tech World. Our second panelist is Dr. Tabitha Branham. Dr. Branham is an innovative leader and 25-year educator who serves as the superintendent of Richardson ISD. Under Dr. Branham's leadership, Richardson ISD is developing innovative ways to address cell phone policies for schools and classrooms. There are several other panelists that are currently being confirmed, and we can't wait to share the full panel with you after the winter break. After you hear from our amazing panelists, we want you to keep the conversation going within your community, whether it's directly after the live stream or in a separate event later that day or week. We want your people to stay engaged with this topic to bring awareness as to how the use of cell phones can impact our kids and our families, both positively and negatively. We understand that cell phones are a valuable tool for our kiddos to show their whereabouts, to allow them to connect with us whenever they need to, and even for such things as school research and assignments. They will have become and will continue to be an integral part of our family dynamic. So let's have conversations about their healthy use and habits and what tools are out there to ensure their safety from people with ill intent. Let's look at your parent and student codes of conduct to review what district policies are. Let's look at what ways connecting too much can affect mental health and how connecting with the wrong people can make them susceptible to cyberbullying, and look at what laws and legislation surround that. If you're a council or an FSR opening up this conversation to your locals, discuss with them what their takeaways can be to present to their members as a program attached to or separate of a membership meeting. There are two very much related and free Connect programs offered by Texas PTA on cyberbullying and cybersecurity, whose toolkits and materials can be downloaded through the Texas PTA website that you can use to spotlight the information provided at the live stream and by the panel. Also, invite your principal, superintendent, and counseling team to have a seat at the table for these local discussions. Some districts have cell phone use policies for general use, and many campuses have their own policies that work best for their age ranges with which they work. It is important to know what those are and how they vary from campus to campus, especially for those parents with students in multiple grades. There will also be a pledge and petition that you will want to share with your participants to give them a call to action. The fifth and final step of Monroe's motivated sequence, which shows us how to organize presentations for maximum impact, guides us to leave our audience with specific things that they can do to solve the problem and take action now. By giving them the simple and pointed directive, we aren't overwhelming them with too much information or expectation while increasing their sense of ownership of the solution. Now let's get a sneak peek at what the pledge and petition look like.
Thank you, Suzanne. At the end of your watch party or community discussion on navigating smartphones, we ask that you share our Straight Talk pledge and petition with your community. We are still wordsmithing the pledge and the petition and possibly combining them into one take action, but the pledge will ask parents to create healthy habits on smartphone usage, and the petition will ask our legislators to hold social media providers accountable for protecting the privacy of our children while taking action to make smartphone usage safer. Once finalized, this pledge and petition will be available on the Texas PTA website and shared with our legislators. Our ultimate goal is for parents, teachers, and communities to partner together to understand that smartphones are part of our daily lives and to understand the need to establish guardrails that protect the well-being of our children. Straight Talk 24 is in full planning mode, from finalizing the details of the live event at the Texas Capitol to creating local watch parties for our PTA communities. Please register with us that you are hosting a watch party so that we may promote your watch party and keep you up to date with the latest watch party tools. Just yesterday, we made the decision to create a one-page facilitator discussion guide to assist you in keeping the conversations going. And we plan to have a membership push connected to the Straight Talk event. So make sure to register so we know who to share these new tools and developments with. And to give a special shout out to the 10 PTAs that have already registered, to Birdville, Carrollton, Farmers Branch, Fort Worth, Grapevine, Colleyville, Hearst, Euless, Bedford, Keller, Mansfield, Northside, Pearland, and Wiley. Thank you for completing the form already. I appreciate it. So thank you for spending this time with us for your excitement about Straight Talk, navigating the smartphone era. A follow-up email containing today's presentation will be mailed out. Please know how very much we appreciate you all, what you all are doing on behalf of the students of Texas. And if you have any questions, we'd feel free to discuss them. All right. Yes, Adrienne.
Good afternoon. If a
Hi.
council said that they were going to host a virtual watch party, but is now planning to host an in-person watch party, do they need to notify Texas PTA?
I think that would be helpful. The form site setting has where you can go in and save your information and then come back and edit it out. So right now, even if you just know that, yes, I want to host it, but I haven't secured a space, I haven't approved it, just go in there and tell us that, yes, we're going to have it. And as your details develop or possibly change, your method or your venue location, you can go back in there and edit and update it.
Okay, thank you.
Righty. Any other questions? Can I say again, I think I shared this in webinar 1 too, but we're having customizable Canva graphics. I think that is as a local and CP president and former communication person. I'm so excited that we can take what Texas PT has and just put our name on it how we like it.
I guess since we have a smaller group, it'd be just good to hear like from a couple of you guys from councils what y'all are planning, what you're hearing, just to help us with the process, like Kathleen, Joanna, Melissa, Amy.
So for Denton ISD, we're trying to work through it. I'll turn my face on so you can see me. We're trying to work through it. When we hosted Straight Talk, Suzanne was around when we hosted the last Straight Talk. It just wasn't very well attended. So there's a group me that's just a bunch of CPs in the Dallas area. And I'm kind of asking them, what are you doing? Are you doing it in person? Are you doing it, virtual? Are you doing, hey, watch on your own and then like, let's go meet at night to talk about it and discuss. And it's hard because we have a really wide district. So doing things during the day is just tough for the different areas because it takes an hour to get from one end to the other. So at least for Denton ISD, we're still chewing on it because, and I know that some councils are, they're bringing in, like guest counselors and I love that idea. I just worry about people actually being able to like join. It would almost have to be more of like a mandate from like the superintendent, like, hey, we expect you to show up.
We've heard from Kamau, who's also a really large geography district, that they're going to do theirs, at multiple places around the district to help with that. I don't know if that would be something. Yeah, just to give it people, since it is a lunch event and we don't want them driving 30 minutes to get there, you want them driving 10. So if that might help it, but then obviously you have 4 different events to plan, but maybe people would take more ownership of it if they felt like it was in their backyard.
Which that's what we did for like our school board trustee forums, is because we are spread out and we've got the 4 high school zones. We just do, something in each of the areas. So that's a totally, doable idea.
Okay, good.
So we'll see. That's our update, which is not an update. So
that's good. Well, you're working on it. It's an in progress.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, we have a similar situation to Amy. I mean, it doesn't normally take us an hour to get across the district, but it's, at least 20 minutes, if not longer, but normally not an hour. Sorry about that. But yeah, so right now our plan is to host at least one watch party on the day of the event. And I think we're going to partner with Leander. They have a connection with Golfinity, and they've got great AV there and a large screen, and they have food there. Like they have a kitchen that is a little bit like a restaurant. And so they host their council meetings are typically a little smaller than ours. And so they host their council meetings there, and they can just order food and you can sit and watch the party. We haven't really discussed having a panel or anything, but I think it would be pretty easy to get some people together. I know our district is super supportive of anything we do like this, so I think I could easily find some panelists if that's something we want to do. But we're just working on connecting with Golfinity to make sure that we can host it there that date. But that's our hope. And then I talked with our Roanoke ISD advocacy chair, about do we need to consider doing something on the the east side of the district, and so we're looking into that. I asked her to please let me know when she was available next week so we could have a meeting before break, because she wanted to mull it over and not make a decision until January, and I was like, can't do that, it's a little too late. But I know everybody's busy, it's hard. So we have one sort of plan in motion.
No, that's good news. Kathleen or Joanna?
Yeah, we've got some plans in place. We've got one location locked down. There's a suggestion for another location that would not require raptoring in. So we're still looking into that. And then I need to, now that we have a location and all of that, start looking at who we could invite to be available for the conversation afterwards. And I think that's about it for our update. If I'm missing anything, just feel free to ask.
No, that's good. Joanna, you have anything else to add on just kind of things you're thinking about that might help other people?
I have done almost zero planning on this because life, but
You're here. That's
I do
planning.
have Rachel Abel as an asset in my district who just happens to be a PTA president at one of the high schools. So her and I, when we've talked about it, have discussed hosting events at each of the high schools that the kids could come in and possibly attend the watch party there. And then possibly even reaching out to the middle schools. They have what they call like well, at my kids' middle school, it's called Colt time. So it's a little like study hall time, approximately around that time. So we could potentially bridge a little bit with lunch and Colt time or whatever their mascot time is to attend. And then I'm also the chair for our local council shack, or our district shack, our school health advisory. So I'll probably reach out to our head counselor in the district and see if we can get some resources on site, maybe have the student advocates, which are like special counselors in our high schools and middle schools, to maybe talk to kids about it, and our SROs, our resource officers.
Awesome. And yeah, you got a good partner in crime here. Rachel, I guess I was going to ask FSRs unless there's something else right now you want to.
No, I was going to say, I just wanted to mention, when you're looking at who should attend, when you're kind of looking, we talked about those discussion topics during the presentation, like what policies are already in place and are they working or not? And who are those people that would make the changes for those policies, right? So it would be administrators in your district. It would be teachers weighing in that gives opinions on what actually classroom behavior is like with, with the cell phones, possibly your shack and your counseling at the district or campus level. But those are probably the people that you really want to focus on as you're looking at what kind of change or effect you want to have after this Straight Talk is over. Those are the people that you want to make sure to include and give a personal invitation, because they're going to have a stake in being involved. So that might help gear when you're looking at who do we invite. And I know I've always loved including the student aspect and it, especially the student leaders on the high school campuses, because that's another great perspective, right, on how do they juggle it. And I know I wanted to mention that we are still looking for a student member to be on our panel in Austin. So if you have any recommendations, I know I've reached out to our counseling advocate at the high school that I am to help me search for a student. But if you have someone in your district that you know of, will you start asking around and just seeing if they're a great speaker and they're passionate about how cell phones have affected their lives. So they may not have a personal story or experience, but they understand the effects, and they understand, they're aware, and they've, they're passionate. They've taken steps to mitigate the effect of the smartphones because they understand.
Yeah,
But
it also would be interesting if I think some shacks have like a cell phone policy committee, and sometimes they have a student on it. I know, like Joanna mentioned, being on your shack, if anybody else is on a shack or, familiar with the student shack, to see if there's some students that are having that conversation.
We would like to invite high school students to ours. We're just trying to figure out the most efficient way to do that. We have 10 high schools in our district, so it's not something we really can open up to the entire student body. So that's sort of the logistical hurdle we're currently grappling with, is how to do that.
do y'all have student body presidents or, maybe
Yeah.
something like that, bringing
That's what we're thinking, is we'll just do like student government type thing. But that was, people are interested in that, and include people being at our council level are interested in that. Just the logistics of doing that. And I'm wondering if we should have, like, if this is something that should have started 2 months ago, if we were going to include high school students.
Right.
So we'll see. And because the other thing was, you know, we didn't want to ask for a space that was big enough to host all the high school, I mean, even all the high school student government leadership people. And then like so we chose a space that can fit 60 people, hoping that if the 25 we expect show up, they won't look like too few. But obviously putting a cap on it so that if for some wild reason we have more than that. But that was one of the other things with inviting high school students, is you potentially exponentially change your attendance numbers.
And continuing, I mean, bringing the students in and their perspective, because they're the ones that are actually struggling with this, right? And they're the ones that can vocalize the hurdles in real time that they're experiencing. Maybe the student aspect, especially considering you guys have such a large district, is something that you add on afterwards. You know, when we said then your optional schedules, those local panels, maybe that's not something that happens right that day, but that's something as we start crafting policies and addressing it, let's bring in their voice at a different time.
We had our junior high academy, I think it's called, like there's the elementary academy, parent academy. The junior high one did 2 months ago, did a presentation about basically this at one of the high schools. And it was interesting because it was an example of like, it had a good turnout, except they held it in the PAC, and it's a PAC for a school with 3,000 students. So even though you have a good turnout, it looked somewhat pitiful. But the thing that stood out was it was supposed to be for parents, like that's how it was advertised. It was in the evening. And there was a surprising number of students that were brought along with parents. So I wonder how much of this, I mean, the thing in my house, I mean, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, is you're my parent. You can't possibly know what you're talking about. You're just trying to keep me down and, you know, all of these things. So I wonder how much of it was parents bringing kids to be like, see, it's not just me making this stuff up. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like part of not having a plan is partially my fault. Like, I feel like now that I'm looking back, I'm like, I should have been, you know, kind of encouraging, you know, some committee meetings, you know, back in November before the break to try to, you know, get more students involved and brainstorm on that. And then also to be able to, you know, get on people's calendars for, you know, panelists and stuff. So, so it's not just
Melissa, don't say, don't have any guilt, right? Like the fact that you're here today and you're talking about it.
No, I just feel bad that like there's so much going on. Everyone's so busy too, you know.
But it's you take what you are right now and it's what you make of it, you know. And if you're get it on the calendar, get those key people together and see what evolves and what's naturally important to your community. And doesn't have to be a huge production right now, you know, whether it's 5 people or 50 people, you know, it's just bringing those people together to start those conversations. And there's so many follow-up events and discussions that could happen, right? The change isn't going to happen and the education isn't going to happen overnight, right? It's a process. And this is just one step in the process. And so if this is the first conversation that your community is having regarding this, great. It's perfect launching part, right? If it's one that's, you know, of a series and it's just right smack dab in the middle, that's fine too. So don't say it's partially, but I think you are exactly where you need to be, you know. You've done
I know how much work goes into planning these things, and so I wish I had fit a little bit more on top of it. But we helped National PTA last year with the social media events, and so we, you know, really saw kids really participate in that event, and parents, came because they were concerned about that platform. And so I think that if there's a way to, add value to get parents and kids involved, which is, a little bit challenging to do in the middle of the, weekday. So, if that's another option to, follow down the road, those events might be better off taking place, in the evenings, I guess. But we did see a lot of value and a lot more, if you all are interested, a lot more conversation and buy-in when parents and kids were at the event. And we also did some roundtables that were real valuable. And then there was kind of a separate conversation with parents and kids, and they took kids to the library, but they did have someone moderating that part of it. So that was valuable, and it was good to have, so many students there. So, whatever you're doing, if there's a way to get kids to show up, we did offer some pretty great prizes. And so,
Prizes are so helpful. But y'all remember that there were 4 sample schedules, and the fourth one was a choose your own adventure. So if you have to have a small live stream event, like in person, some of your key council leaders, and then branch out and do these evening activities later on, you've got the video will be there. It's not going away. So you'll have the same material to work from, and just keep the key is going to be keeping the conversation going. It's that important that this isn't a one and done thing. So that's why, the recording of it is so important, and that choose your own adventure option.
Awesome. All right. Does anyone want to share any other ideas or have any questions?
I have
Yes.
one more question, sorry, sort of a logistical thing. I started putting together like a sign up genius for people to sign up for it. And other than the obvious like name and email address, do you want us tracking like where they're from, like whether they're a local PTA, like what kind of data are y'all looking for after the fact?
I think we're looking for who all hosted. So did a council host it? Did an
Okay.
independent PTA host, a watch party? And anyone else chime in here, and about how many people attended would be nice to know. And then kind of what your follow-up next steps, what came out of it, right? Did it just stop right there? Which sometimes that happens. It stops right there. It's not a priority, or it's just your district doesn't have the bandwidth right now to take it on, right? And just, we educated, we learned, we're done. Hopefully though, there's more continuing discussion about what did it lead to? Did it lead to a change? Did it lead to some type of district-wide change or policy for the way cell phones? Did it spur hosting a Connect program? Did it spur other conversations about parents getting together to talk about, initiatives like Wait Until 8th or something like that, that are out there. So I think though, does that cover? I'm looking at like Michelle and Lauren and Jennifer. The data that we're looking for is, did you have it? How many attended and what happened? What were the results?
That sounds right to me.
Awesome. The other data that you collect, you may just want that for your own purposes, for continuing discussion. So if you want their names and campuses and roles in the community, then maybe that's what you would. I don't think we have a need for that, but you may have that as you continue your conversations.
Okay.
And Rachel, I think we also have some FSRs on who are over PTAs without council. So maybe just talking about the next steps and how we want, that they can do district-wide events, or we want to provide support to them too.
So as FSR, so if you going out next week, if you're a PTA, a local campus PTA that's either an independent or doesn't have a council hosting a watch party, you're going to get kind of a shortened synopsis of this information that we've put out in these 2 webinars, just kind of a summary of it, of how to host your own event. So as an independent FSR, if you want to, you can help answer questions and support those PTAs if they decide to plan something and guide them. And that's great that you're here and you've heard this back end information to help answer some of their questions. If some of them are nearby each other, and I don't know how spread you guys are out on your territories, but if they want to combine and come together and host their own area watch party, possibly you can connect them together. But we'll have something going out to any local PTA that doesn't, either it's an independent or it doesn't have a council hosting a watch party, so that they have the opportunity to host their own event if they feel like it.
One
that'll
piece,
that'll go
I'm
out.
so sorry, my brain forgot to mention that we'll be rolling out well, you'll get resources after the break, but we typically build in a membership drive component, whether it's Rally Day or Straight Talk. And so this time we'd like, because this is so student centric and affects them so much, and because we're trying to get more of their buy-in, we are going to do a membership drive targeted at recruiting student members. So I know, especially for a lot of you who are presidents of middle and high schools, looking for more tools and resources to recruit those students, we're going to be providing more of that to help drive those members and help you guys boost your membership along with this and get them involved with PTA through this avenue. So more information to come on that part.
Thank you, Lauren. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you for joining us on this, what is today, Wednesday? On this Wednesday during your lunch hour. I saw a couple people eating, so if you haven't eaten yet, go grab some lunch and reach out if you have any questions. And I look forward to seeing what you guys do.
And great job, Rachel and team. Thank you. Who else here? Suzanne and Kelly and
Shauna.
Who's not, and Shauna for helping y'all put the work together. So well done.
Thank you guys. Alrighty. Have a good one.
Bye, y'all.